We're back with a few more selected Celestials and creepy flicks. You gotta wonder when heavenly horror is gonna make a real comeback, you know? Everything else seems to be cyclical, so when does this trend get another swing at the market? Folks seem to love angels and horror, so what's stopping them from taking back over? I suppose we'll just have to wait and see. In the meanwhile, we can take a look back on the catalogs of old and find some horrific angels that are ready to be watched right now. Was that a bad Watchers joke? We may never know. So let's get to the list. The top 5 scary angels in horror movies, part 2. Coming in at number 5, we've got Azazel from Fallen. Oh boy, this guy again. I feel like we've done a freaking thesis on Azazel at this point, fallen angel extraordinaire, but I suppose he's well known for a reason, yeah? Just a classic story, the beautiful, talented, benevolent being way up above deciding to go against the powers that be and ending up a wretch. Well, he wasn't totally wretched, he ended up doing all sorts of things very well, the most important of which was corrupting humanity, and boy, he does a lot of that. In Fallen, he's got the peculiar ability to take over new hosts by touching them and uses this to great effect. After a heinous serial killer is put to death, Azazel takes to the streets, causing untold mayhem and tormenting Detective John Hobbs. This ability to hop between bodies kickstarts a game of cat and mouse as the detective attempts to track down and put an end to this horrible fallen angel. However, there's no angelic qualities left in this being, and Azazel is dead set on killing as many people as possible. Azazel commits to destroying Detective Hobbs' life, from ruining his reputation, to killing members of his family, to forcing Hobbs to take the lives of others to keep Azazel at bay. It really is quite terrifying. To make matters worse, even killing Azazel won't stop him, as if a host dies while he's in control, he can just hop to a new body as long as it can be done in the time one breath takes. Detective Hobbs' life is indeed ruin, and he does everything he can to prevent this demon from continuing on its spree. This all makes sense considering Azazel's backstory too, a fallen angel, totally physically and mentally changed from time spent down in hell, known to be a deceitful and corrupting influence on all those around him. In fact, Azazel is said to have been one of the fallen angels who taught humanity all sorts of things they probably shouldn't have known. From warfare to weapons making to the art of deception, he even went as far as teaching witchcraft. These don't necessarily happen word for word in the movie, but there's a lot of implied consequences to Azazel's knowledge. Plus there's the whole bit where in the Book of Enoch, God ascribes literally all sin to him. That's hardcore, I'm not gonna lie. Coming in number 4, we've got Angel from Angel. Creative name, right? The thing is, this angel is less than heavenly. In fact, it's not really a biblical angel at all. I know that's sort of been the vibe for a while with these videos, but really, this angel's all in the name, more or less. It's a story of a father desperately searching for his missing daughter, who supposedly was abducted and dropped off at Raven Rock, an abandoned and dilapidated town. He hires a group of investigative journalists to head on down and see if they can find her. When they arrive, they're faced with a spooky ghost town, once a jewel of industry specializing in logging. For years, people have been mysteriously disappearing at that very same location, so the whole place was shuttered. But even after being closed down, the disappearances continued. Spooky, right? Well, there's more. One of the folks hired to look for young Ava is a woman named Maya, who apparently has connections to these disappearances. Her mother was a Raven Rock obsessive, doing her darndest to figure out the secrets this town hid. However, her mother didn't solve the puzzle and died in the process. So now Maya leads these sleuths through the town of Raven Rock, warning them of the legend known as Angel. This masked assailant seems to be involved in the disappearing people and doesn't want the team snooping around. And she'll do whatever she can to keep them out. And it gets gnarly, believe me. Add in a subplot concerning Ava's parents and their anguish following their daughter's disappearance, and you've got a wild indie horror movie. Not creme de la creme by any means, but it's a fun time overall, and Angel brings a wonderfully foreboding and dangerous presence to it. Just don't expect any white feathery wings or glorious halos and harps. It's not that kind of movie. Coming in at number 3, we've got Loki and Bartleby from Dogma. This one is questionably horror at best, but how am I going to ignore these two lunatics for 2 lists straight? Who doesn't want to see Matt Damon and Ben Affleck exploit loopholes in religious dogma in a petty attempt to get back at God? Come on. This flick gets its name from the idea of being a strict rule follower and not going back on a set of principles laid out by authority. Dogma. A pretty classic angel theme, don't you think? So when the angels break rules set out for them, bad stuff tends to happen. We see it in classic tales like the Watchers, who descended to Earth in order to indulge in human hedonism. Other fallen angels make good cases against breaking the rules as they end up in hell, either suffering eternal torment or leading hideous armies of the damned. Loki and Bartleby break the rules and get banished to Wisconsin. Tough if you're lactose intolerant for sure. In classic slacker fashion, instead of making up for what they did or accepting their new lives and making the best of it, this dastardly duo figures out a loophole that would let them back into heaven. However, exploiting this loophole successfully would result in dogma being broken and thus God being proven wrong. This has dire consequences for everyone, as proving that God can be wrong would cause the end of the world. Good. So this is indeed scary, especially when the angels attempting to be petty and remorseless and reckless are Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Good luck convincing those two they've done anything wrong. During the flick, most of this is played for laughs, but these two end up being extremely violent, killing all sorts of folks in the human world. So while goofy and fun to watch, this is not something you'd want happening where you are. Coming in number 2, we've got Mothman, or Indrid Cold, from the Mothman prophecies. Mothman's fame has risen considerably over the past decade or so as people's interest in cryptids grows online. One theory concerning Mothman is that he himself is harmless but appears as an ill omen. If you see a figure resembling a humanoid with a moth's wings, something bad is about to happen. That's exactly what goes on in the Mothman prophecies, as bereaved columnist John Klein begins to experience strange events in his life. He loses entire days and finds himself visiting strangers in the dead of night. People he's close to get calls from mysterious figures who let them know of horrible incidents about to occur, although there isn't much anyone can do about it. After getting into a car accident with his wife, John walks away uninjured. However, his wife spends some time in the hospital before succumbing to an unrelated brain tumor. Damn. He discovers all sorts of drawings of a dark angel-like figure amongst her belongings, and then starts to see stuff like that himself. Now, it's never explicitly confirmed in the movie, but some do say that Mothman is indeed an angel who does its best to warn people of impending danger. However, Mothman is not a phenomenal communicator, so instead of giving clear instructions and warnings, he kinda just shows up and speaks spookily. Vague portents of doom and gloom and misunderstood death counts make for a very creepy experience overall. So even though Mothman, or Indrid Cold, or that warning angel isn't explicitly dangerous, there's the implication of disaster that comes along with it. So watch yourself out there. And finally, at number 1, we've got Gabriel from Constantine. Tilda Swinton can play any role and do it well. Just try and convince me otherwise. The cold, calculating, and terrifying Archangel Gabriel that appears in Constantine is another one of her pitch-perfect performances on a wild and out there character. After denying John Constantine's request to avoid death for a while, it's revealed that Gabriel hates humans because God shows them favoritism. Instead of just working with that and being mean to people maybe, Gabriel decides it's time to rain hellfire upon the lesser beings, or bring hell up on Earth. Oh boy. There's a lot of really cruel stuff that Gabriel does throughout the flick, and in the end it actually works against her. However, this doesn't prevent this terrifying angel from wreaking as much havoc as possible during that descent. So, y'all locked and loaded for angelic horror for a while? I know all these weren't explicitly horror, but come on. There's a little bit of spookiness in everything if you look closely enough, especially when you're dealing with the supernatural presence of God's chosen warriors. Wild, right? So, what'd you think of the list? Do you agree with my picks? What's the scariest angel you've ever encountered, whether on screen, in a book, or elsewhere? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more exclusive ones from the Top 5 Scary Demons Kids Have Drawn Part 2. Lil Lady A says a child didn't make that digital one, not buying it. Some adult just had tried to make it look amateurish. Is that libel I smell? Prove a child didn't draw that and then get back to me. RK7 says, sheesh, I'm babysitting for my neighbor and I'm taking the crayons away for the boy next time. I am not going to take any chances. Yeah, as a babysitter, I think you should probably play some video games with the lad instead. Less demonic interaction. Christina Skipwith says, so I had an imaginary friend when I was little. He was a knight. Not so creepy till I talk about the night terrors I had for years. Same dream over and over. He cut off my family's heads and hanged them in the house. Always in the living room. Crazy thing is, I remember the house I was sleeping in, but my mother doesn't. Well, I mean, at least your family knew not to let you get into LARPing. Gabriel Smith says, isn't the fact that a kid can draw a demon mean that you are either haunted or that demon is going to try something with the kid? Or, hear me out here, maybe the kid is just a wacky artist with a wild imagination. Black Magic says, a friend's daughter wished death upon me 3 times. I thought it was kind of inappropriate, but that's just me. Hope she's not an effing witch. Fingers crossed you make it. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm going to rent out a gymnasium and challenge everyone in the county to come fight me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.